How do I go to desktop? My desktop. Oops. Oh. Hello, everyone. If you see me, I'm trying to test and make sure that I'm live. Live? I do not know. Okay, it looks. Ah.
Thank you very much, Monica. First of all, Dr. Rajan, it's just a privilege to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us. In the audience, we have about 60 minutes with Dr. Rajan, and also we will have Q&A at the end. So hold your questions and keep them concise, and we'll try to take them as many questions as possible. Dr. Rajan, to introduce our audience to you, there are bankers in the room, there are people who run payment services companies, but everybody has got
Let
something.
me pause this. I'm looking at a different screen to see if I'm live. Okay, it looks like I'm live. Okay. Little delay. All right, everybody. All right. Now this is whew. All right. Let's see what the market looks like. All right. So this is my first live stream. Now I'm trying to get everything together. So I see on my other screen that I'm good. I wonder if y'all can hear me. Unmute this right quick. All right, you can hear me. This is the XRP agent. How y'all doing today? Now, I know Aiden Trayton and Alex Cobb is covering the SWELL event. I wanted to put my little 2 cents in. I'm trying to grow my channel. I only have like 45 subscribers, so if you like what you see, comment and subscribe. I would really like that. So my regular channel is William May, so it shows that I'm a follower. So now let me see if I can say a chat. So like on the other one, chat box, live chat available. I have live chat available. Top chat. Oh, sorry, I'm looking away. I'm trying to get this chat thing. Just see if I can send myself a chat to see if it's going in my little box right here. Oh, there we go. He's saying hi. Is it in my box? I don't see it. My box. So, oh, I have something right there. Oh, All right. I'm still playing around with it. So let's get into the stream. So, hey, it looks like I got another like. All right. So right now, Bitcoin is at 9,238. So we're in the red mostly. Tether is up 59%. Ethereum is 188. And XRP, we had a boost a couple days ago. Um, Sam I Am did a video and he was showing that it was somebody, a whale, trying to manipulate the market, bought like a lot of um, Bitcoin and transferred into XRP, and he was thinking once XRP shot up, they would dump the market. And I believe the message earlier, he said that's exactly what happened. But XRP have a good resistance at 29 and 30 cents. But in my opinion, be patient because if it was programmed, designed to go $10,000 a coin, this is what we have to, we're paying for having the privilege of being the wealthiest people in the world by our patience. And if you don't have any patience and have faith in your investment, XRP, when they're laying down the foundation for global finances, then you don't need to be in this. I'm looking at different stuff. You don't need to be in this investment if you don't have the patience. If you looking to turn a quick buck, then invest in something else. But it's not XRP. You gotta be patient. And for those who was patient in the beginning of Bitcoin, look at them. They're multimillionaires. There's been a lot of people that sold as soon as Bitcoin went to a couple dollars, $50, $100. They're crying the blues now. Bitcoin is at $9,000 right now. And a few people, like the modern investor, he says, hey, he believes it's going to be $1 million per coin. Who, what do I think? I'm, I look at it like this. If Bitcoin could be $20,000 at one point or close to it and not have really that much use case in its, you know, functionality, then XRP bringing all the banks together, bringing people together, people that spend a lot of money with Western Union and all these other companies to send money, like a third of their paycheck every time they're sending payments to save money, and then they get it like Johnny on the spot. That's a hell of a use case. So I'm looking at more than $10,000 per coin. So that's just me. All right. Now here's the Swell website. Like and they're having the agenda. So hey Google, what time is it in Singapore?
The time in Singapore is 12:59 p.m.
Okay, so I'm in California, so it's going on 10 o'clock at night. So it's just about 1 o'clock out there on Friday. Featured customer panel. All right. So let's check out some tweets. Now, crypto Erie, man, she wasn't able to make it to Swell. She got to the plane. They was checking out her passport and from a quick video that she did, and it's a lump in my throat. I felt a lump in her. I saw the lump in her throat. I'm pretty sure, she probably like cried afterwards. But man, that's a gut check right there. But she said that her passport needed at least 6 months before it needed to be renewed, and she didn't have that, so they wouldn't let her go, even though that she was only going for a few days. It was like, nah, we're not having it. So uh, yeah, so she wasn't able to make it. But man, I wish she was been able to make it. All right, so let's see what's going on with Mr. B XRP. So there go Mr. B XRP with Brad Garlinghouse and the digital asset investor. Wow, that's so cool. And you see Kevin Cage, new profile pic. Awesome guys. A lot of the community just showing their love. Wonderful. All right, let's go over to the digital asset investor. There we go. So he's sharing the same picture. Great. Okay, like an hour ago, they're showing a quick video. Let's see what this is about.
This is new. I mean, this is completely different, right? So the beautiful thing about MoneyGram is that we do have liquidity pools around the world. We move literally, billions of dollars. So the money is there. The question is, how do you move it efficiently? You guys have an amazing technology, interesting platform that can help us do that, but it needs to come to life. You need buyers and sellers, market makers, as you say, on both sides of the transaction to actually make it efficient. And I think that just takes time and momentum to build. So I think for us, that was kind of the big learning. I think when you joke that I'm pushing you, it's like, I'm like, come on, man, get the market open, let's get going. But I realize that takes time. And so for me, that was kind of a learning. I think the other big learning for me.
Okay, that was it for that. But yeah, it takes time to get everything situated. I know
This is new. I mean, this is complete.
I know MoneyGram was trying to talk to Brad Garlinghouse and like, hey, we need to open up all these other corridors, but he was letting them know that, well, hey, we want to open them up too. If anything, we want to open them up the most, but we need to do things in the proper way. So we have to have the regulations before we open up the corridors, so that way everything runs smoothly. So I believe take your time, do things right, so that way when they flip the switch, turn it on, or mass enable, everything will be just right. So let's see what else. So Ripple tweeted out a few things. Notifications. So if you're not on my Twitter, friend me or like me. Um, uh, uh, what's this foolishness about CKJ? I've seen some like funny memes and stuff like that, clowning him. And he hadn't been posting anything on YouTube, so I don't know what happened with that. But now this is a good video. It was funny, so let me play this.
There's a
from the
coded
beginning.
phrase on the floor.
Everybody, in Graham socks.
Guys, look at the coded phrase. David Schwartz, put your foot next to his head. Let's see here. Do you see him, everybody? That's it. You got. I'm telling you, this is going to be beautiful. All right, everybody, this is a shot. I want you to put your tongue on
David
his
Schwartz.
socks.
Ah. That is crazy.
That is beautiful. David Schwartz just got his tongue 1 inch from Graham's sock. Now, how do you feel? Now, do you feel like violated?
Insane.
It's like a Me Too thing that just happened.
In David we trust.
Yeah.
In David we trust. This is really a big deal.
Yeah.
So here we are. No, guys, no, seriously, this is a coded message directly from Joel Katz on the floor. Now, Alex Cobb, I want you to start.
Now they're
David,
mentioning
tell me,
Alex Cobb.
You came up with this design. Like, what was the message that you put into it? Does this equal, that's going to be $1 on that date, and there's $13?
Well, that obviously means March over there, obviously. You can see
And
it.
I'm going to ask everybody the question. Guys, when we always say when Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
When are we doing it? When are we going to Mars, David?
September 16th. Yeah.
Guys, you just heard it here live. We're going to Mars on September 16th. I'm telling
December
you,
16th, we're blowing up.
So David Schwartz.
We're going to Mars, so we'll probably moonshot way before then. But man, that was great little video. So what's this one? Is this one in English? I don't want to do any music. I might get like a copyright strike or something. So yeah, I'm not gonna entertain any kind of foolishness with that. You know, life is what you make it. It'll work itself out. So let's see. Breaking video, Wall Street, XRP, and let's see what they're talking about right quick.
There, where the guy that's trading spot FX today will be leaders and are working with banks.
I agree.
Ripple
right.
would be an example.
Ripple would be an
XRP.
example, right?
Now, this is and I can imagine in the next 5 years, instead of us doing sterling against the dollar or sterling against yen and doing these kinds of transactions, we'll do sterling versus Ripple. And the reason being, dollar right now is a 2-day settlement. With something like Ripple, you could do settlement.
Look at those glasses, Bitcoin.
I think that there's a future there where the guy that's trading spot FX today will be trading spot FX against Ripple in the future, in the next 2 or 3 years. So I think that Ripple has a great future because it's right now supported by all the banks and by all the regulators.
And it has an elastic monetary base, right?
So
Well,
if we take that and you go to the blockchain ledger, if you take that concept that you're discussing, I have no problem with it. I agree with it. But you're talking about money. You're talking about transaction, a medium of exchange. There has to be something behind it, and that's where I'm going to pull this conversation back to gold. There has to be some sort of reserve asset. The problem with fiat currencies right now is that they can print as much as they want, digitally or whatever. They just it's not tied to anything.
Easy.
And so as a result, the value of the money can be
manipulated.
Negated. It can be destroyed over time, and it is destroyed over time.
I think one of the biggest sales pitches that folks that enjoy Bitcoin talk about is the fact that it's finite. And yet you have a fork, and boom, here's another currency based off of this one. You have another fork, more currency, another fork, more currency.
The fact that it's finite
it's totally finite.
Is actually one of the worst things about Bitcoin, and it shows that really smart developers and really smart engineers don't know anything about monetary economics. Because if you understand monetary economics, you don't want hyperinflation, you don't want money everywhere, but the money supply has to grow a little bit. As the economy is growing, if the money supply doesn't grow and the economy is growing, that's inherently deflationary. Each coin is going to get you more and more because you've capped it out. Well, if it's deflationary, if you look at, say, the dollar, M0, M1, M2, M3, et cetera, what you find is that most of the money in the world isn't really money, it's credit. Credit is what makes the world go round. People borrow, you have money and I borrow from you and I give you a note and I lend it to Boz and she gives me a note. All of a sudden there's like $3 around. Well, it was really only $1. We got 2 notes. But the point is, credit is what makes the money supply expand to go along with the economy.
The world on debt. And watch when they tokenize everything and make debt a part of the ledger. It's gonna be crazy. Make sure I get alerts from XRP veteran. I like that. And retweet it. Okay, so let's see from anything's happening right now. Oh no, let's go back. Oh, See if they're streaming anything. So hey, I'm new at this, so bear with me. Let's back over here. Let's see if there's anything new. All right. Ripple just tweeted something. Time will tell, but so far, so good. The picture, okay. Let's see if Ripple. I got alert right. They have any videos? Jay Kim interview with Brad Garlinghouse. Okay, let's see what this is about. Oh, okay. No video on that one. They got us there. But this one just a Well, let me show you this. Oh, no, not that. Was a video. All right, well, let me show you this. This came from Whipple website.
Thank you very much, Monica. First of all, Dr. Rajan, it's just a privilege to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us. In the audience, we have about 60 minutes with Dr. Rajan, and also we will have Q&A at the end. So hold your questions and keep them concise, and we'll try to take them as many questions as possible. Dr. Rajan, to introduce our audience to you, there are bankers in the room, there are people who run payment services companies, but everybody has got something to do with the cross-border flow of goods and services. So they either help individuals like you and me to send money back home, or they help companies who trade and work with their buyers and receive buyers or sellers to move money across the world. And they're here because, like Ripple, they want to challenge the status quo. They want to be part of when the new reality unfolds. And lastly, the big reason they are here is because there are lots of fans of yours, right? And that goes without saying because I spoke to a number of them. Right? So let's start with the first question. In 2005, you spoke to a group of eminent economists and actually talking about how the world has become a riskier place because of the financial developments. In 2010, you wrote the book Fault Lines, where you talk about fractures that are actually threatening the global economy. Have those fractures healed? Are we at a place which is a safe place, or there are new fractures that have developed? Can you help unpack the world for us?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much first for having me here. It's such a pleasure to be with this audience and, of course, with Ripple and to see what you have accomplished so far. The world changes, right? The world today is not what it was 10 years ago, and the pace of change, of course, is incredible. But there are, of course, challenges we have. One of the biggest challenges is that we don't seem to be growing fast enough for what people want. And every attempt we've made to grow faster has, in fact, not worked out. And this is especially a problem in the industrial world, where after 10 years of very, very easy money, we still seem to be stuck at a moderate pace of growth. And any uncertainties, for example, the recent trade conflict tends to depress growth substantially. So a lot of talk about recession recently. So what's on the cards for the next few years? Well, for one, I think this easy money will probably continue for the foreseeable future. Central banks are basically on hold because they tried to withdraw the easy money last year by starting to raise interest rates and found that the global economy simply couldn't sustain it. So they backed off. Now, one of the reasons the global economy couldn't sustain it is there was a parallel sort of dispute over trade, which took off a certain amount of growth. Today, what we're seeing is that central banks are back on hold. There is some hope that the trade disputes will get lessened. I won't say solved because it takes a lot to solve what has been the kind of problems that have been created. But given that, the chances of a recession over the next year have come down substantially. So should we worry? Well, the three reasons for worrying. Short-term reasons. We'll come to long-term reasons in a second. Short-term reasons for worrying is, first, there are many strong leaders around the world. And strong leaders have sharp elbows. And they get into disputes, and we've seen that on trade. One of the concerns is, even though there seems to be a toning down of the temperature on trade, we still don't have a phase one agreement between China and the United States, and things could still break down given the strong personalities involved.
And Twitter diplomacy is involved.
And Twitter diplomacy or lack of diplomacy involved, right? So that's one big concern. The second is the world is also a more dangerous place as a result, partly as a result of the United States backing off from being the world's policeman. There are lots of dangerous places which are unpoliced. One place which particularly has loomed large for the last 50 years is the Middle East. And what we saw recently was attacks on the Saudi Arabian oil fields. And those attacks weren't in any sort of obvious way. There was no penalty for the attackers. And that changes the environment there. If, as is argued, it was Iran or its proxies which did that, well, they're still out there. We could survive this set of attacks because there's spare Saudi capacity which came online, the spare capacity around the world. What if there's another set of attacks and the price of oil starts going through the roof? So that is another concern that is there. But the third is, and this goes back to the last point about fault lines, that easy money breeds a whole lot of debt and a whole lot of potential risk. And more easy money means we don't necessarily see a recession, but when that recession happens, the leveraging that has happened, the risk-taking that has happened, will come to bear at that point. So the risk of a recession has come down. When it happens, it's going to be more severe because of this very long period of easy money.
Got it. Thank you very much for that. Everywhere, everyone here in this room is also hungry for growth. Right. Are there bright spots that you see? Are there opportunities that you see at the macroeconomic level that everybody should focus on, not only to drive growth, but also balance some of the risks that we may not have any control over?
Well, I think there are a number of spots which one can hope that you see growth. For sure, in industrial countries, we've had tremendous technological change, but it hasn't yet shown up in higher productivity. And even somebody who's as pessimistic about productivity as Robert Gordon, who's the world expert on that, believes that we're due for stronger productivity. And the reality about technology is that the technological innovations don't translate into actual productivity growth for a time. Until corporations, businesses learn to use that technology, not in the same old way, not as hacks on the old system, but reinvent the system to use the technology in a way that benefits, right? And my sense is the technologies we've had have been here for a large amount of time, you should now see them emerging and actually changing the way businesses operate, and we will reap the efficiencies as a result. You seeing it in specific firms within industries. We have these superstar firms which are far more efficient than the average firm. But for it to spread both within the industry across all firms, but also across industries to industries that haven't been touched by the technological change, my sense, I'm a techno-optimist, is that benefit is still to come. We will still see the pace of growth increase considerably and stronger growth rather than the tepid growth that we see today. So productivity is one important reason. The second, I think, important possibility is areas of the world that have been excluded so far from the growth process may start joining. Of course, the clear case here is Africa, where there are bright spots. Africa as a whole needs to be unpacked. You need to look at specific countries which are doing well, which have hold promise. Africa is young, and it holds promise for the future even as the rest of the world is aging. Another place which is, of course, very young is South Asia. Now, these are places that are still very poor and haven't benefited from global growth to the extent that other areas have. But they're also, in that sense, low-hanging fruit. The estimate is that India will overtake, if it ramps up its growth back to where it was a couple of years ago, will overtake the United States in its contribution to global growth in the next couple of years. So in that sense, you have two important spots for growth: China, India, and the United States will then come third. So there are opportunities. I mean, even with this trade conflict, much as it is detrimental to the world, a country like Vietnam is benefiting because people are seeing it as an alternative to China as a place to do business. So there's opportunity even in adversity.
Fantastic. I want to draw on some lessons when you were the governor of RBI. You took over at a time when it was a difficult time for India. The economic sentiment was down, the currency was tanking, and there were a lot of chaos in the government. And you delivered on the agenda of growth, you and your team together. What is your message to central banks around the world? One, and everybody is struggling with growth. And then second, are there some alternative ideas, alternative thinking, which the central banks should pursue, which they are not pursuing today?
Well, so let me start first with monetary policy, which is the bread and butter of central banks. For a long time, central bankers have been saying they're the only game in town. And I think that's a little bit of a mistake, because when you say you're the only game in town, there's a high risk that you become the only game in town. Growth is not the primary sort of contribution of central banks. They typically want to keep inflation low, maintain price stability. Growth comes as a result of everybody else doing the right things. And by saying you're the only game in town, everybody is looking to the central bank for growth. In fact, you see in the recent relationship between President Trump and the Fed that it may even create misunderstanding, where President Trump believes the Fed is holding back on growth and thereby takes certain actions which essentially are trying to force the central bank to cut interest rates and keep growth up. And it may end up in a situation where the administration believes the central bank can do far more than it actually can. And the net result is we have a recession rather than actual growth. So at some level, the central banks have to say, thus far and no more. We've done what we could. We really don't have many bullets left in the gun. And whatever we have to conserve for really bad times. So what can they do at that point? And at that point, if you're a developing country central bank, what you have is the ability to enhance development. And that was something that we could do in India because just the issue of financial inclusion. Can we bring more of the people who are excluded into the financial system? And there, I would say that, for a long time, I believe we had the priorities on financial inclusion wrong. We started financial inclusion by trying to push credit. So the whole Grameen Bank idea that you have these small amounts of credit given to people. That's the way to get them in. And there was this myth that everyone would become a micro-entrepreneur. I would argue that many sort of poor people need to first have the experience of dealing with money and learning how to deal with it in an effective way, managing accounts and so on. And that means starting with payments, starting with savings, starting with stuff that doesn't expose them to big risk, which credit does. And it seems to me then rolling them into credit once they have a good sense of how to handle money seems the right sequence rather than starting with credit first. So as a central bank, we could try and get them included in the system. There was a big push by the government to open bank accounts for everyone. But then once they had bank accounts, you could try and make payments to and fro. Many of these people lived on top of a hill, which was 10 miles from the nearest ATM. How do you get them to be able to make payments easily sitting at that distance? Well, they had mobile phones. So how do you get mobile payments facilitated? And you were part of the organization, NPCI, which pushed for that. And now we have a flourishing payment ecosystem which has taken off. So the broader point is growth can be generated through many other ways, especially in a developing country, through financial development, for example, but you have to be careful of doing it in the right sequence.
Yeah, fantastic. So what I'm also hearing is, and both in the earlier answer and this answer, that technology is a big lever that central banks have, communities have, to be able to use that. And this could be companies in terms of raising productivity, or this could be central banks in terms of deploying new business models, and it could be for the purpose of profitability in the case of companies, and in case of central banks, it could be for growth. Technology is a big lever. Drawing upon your, again, experience in India, could you give a couple of specific examples? I know UPI, you hinted just at the very top, some of the things that you did by using technology as a lever to actually be able to deliver growth and to be able to make that happen?
Well, technology is, institutions sit on top of technology. And then the question is how to get those institutions to reach out. There are many ways that, that technology can play a part. One of the biggest ways it helps the process of inclusion, as many of you know, is by reducing the transaction costs of doing business. One of the big problems in inclusion is reaching the small guy is really costly because every transaction costs quite a bit, and if the size of the transaction is small, it becomes prohibitively expensive given the size of the transaction. So one of the big things that you have to focus on is essentially how do you get the institutions to have the incentive to reach out to these guys and to see a business in there. One example where we had to make a big change was we had the telecom companies that controlled access, controlled the technology which allowed access to a huge number of people. And we had the banks which controlled the products. And the two just didn't want to talk. Each one wanted to maintain control over their clients, so they didn't want to do business together. And one of the ways we tried to get them to start talking was by allowing the telecoms into the banking business in a constrained way. We call them payment banks. But once we gave them that pathway and the banks realized that the telecoms would actually eat their lunch if they weren't careful, they had the incentive to start talking. And then a bunch of joint ventures actually emerged. And the broader point here is that sometimes the way to disrupt is to make those who are trying to keep out the competition essentially lose their tools. Bring in new institutions in the system. Amongst the institutions, so we had a whole lot of state conservative institutions. One of the institutions we gave a license to is Paytm, which was an aggressive marketer of payment services. And we knew this was a disruptive force. As a central bank, you want to be conservative. You don't like too much disruption. But occasionally, you let the cat among the pigeons, and the pigeons actually do something. So Paytm was an attempt to get some disruption, technological disruption, and it's had a very beneficial effect. Of course, there were lots of interesting products that we wanted to enable. One of the things we did was an exchange where small businesses could sell their receivables on large firms. Now, it's starting to take off, but this is clearly a place where technology could reduce transaction costs immensely and thereby enable a transformation, because those small businesses were essentially providing working capital funding to large firms. That seems a travesty. Why should a small firm which has a high cost of capital fund the large firm? And the easy way to disrupt this is for the large firm to accept it. It still gets the working capital funding, but now when that receivable is sold on the exchange, it's a large firm's credit, which becomes the source of financing, and you get interest rates commensurate with that. Everybody benefits by this unpacking. But the key was you need to reduce transaction costs for this to happen. I think there's more that can be done in this, the use of blockchain technology, for example, to reduce the costs here. And that would create a very vibrant new product which could help small businesses access finance easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the fundamental things that blockchain solves for is trust. And if you look at invoice discounting platforms like that, where trust could be guaranteed, in that case, it's become much easier both for the buyer and seller to come and then buy that invoice at a discount rate, which reduces the cost of credit for everyone.
It is, that's right. It is interesting. I mean, if you think at a fairly abstract level, what we're seeing in the world today is an increasing fear and distrust of centralized solutions. I mean, if you think about what the cry in Brexit is, it is take back control from the centralized European structures. Across the world, I mean, if you look at the breakdown in globalization that we're seeing, it's a worry about being subject to rules set elsewhere. So there is a backing off from centralization. How do you yet maintain the kind of cross-border transactions, the trade that we need, the financial transactions that we need in a world where centralization is feared? And I think the answer is more decentralized structures that people trust. And that's one place where at an abstract level, something like a blockchain technology, decentralized ledgers, may carry the ability to bridge the gaps when centralization sort of breaks down. So I think that's part of why you see so many people interested here. It's also, increasingly, and we talked about inclusion, but increasingly micropayments are going to be very important. We talked earlier in private about paying for news. If you wanted to read an article, that's a micropayment. But as we talk about data, and there is a concern that individuals are parting with their data for nothing, we're going to get information intermediaries who are going to negotiate payments for data, for individual data, with firms. That'll be a good thing, because if data belong to the individual and can be negotiated, then data doesn't become a source of monopoly power, but can be competitively acquired by new entrants who say, I want the data to run my programs on to improve them. How do I get access to a large amount of data? Well, I go to the intermediary and buy the data, but that requires a whole lot of micropayments, and you can have that happen. So in that sense, I think decentralization, becoming smaller, dealing with really small payments, all that is where technology can help and can first allow power to be more dispersed, trust to be dispersed, but also allow a breakup of some of the monopolies that we worry about increasingly in this world.
And I agree with you. And some of the trends we are seeing today, so for example, one of the big trends that we see in the world is gig economy. So Dr. Rajan could essentially say, hey, Naveen, can you make a presentation for me? And for $50, I could prepare that presentation to you, and then you hire me on an hourly basis. In your book, you have also talked about virtual communities. Now, those communities today they can interact with, have a very rich interaction with each other on the internet, but when they want to exchange goods or services for money, that's where it becomes a big problem, because in the first case that I alluded to,
like and
if you indeed need
subscribe.
to send me $50, it'll cost you far more
It
to
helps the
transfer that
channel.
$50 from US to India for me. So in your view, where would the solution come from? Would it come from policymakers getting together in a room and not to be let out till this gets sorted? Or it'll come from the private sector, or a combination thereof?
That way
What's
you
your
can see
view?
what
How
I'm
can
doing.
we drive towards a world
I'm
where
new at
this
this.
problem can be solved and truly some of these economic activity can be unleashed?
Well, it comes from all sides, right? You first have to have the idea, the vision of what is possible, and policymakers are not going to have that. That's going to come from the private sector. Here are the problems that we're trying to solve, and here's a solution. At which point, when you acquaint the policymakers with what possibilities there are, then they start putting their risk metrics on it. Am I comfortable? What are the things that can go wrong? What's the kind of fraud that can happen, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go back and forth, and then you get something that sort of works. Now, sometimes, the private sector operates in the background at a small level before it comes to the notice of policymakers. So you iron out the bugs, many of the bugs early on, so that there is a solution which is largely tried and tested before it comes to the policymakers. And of course, now we have a whole lot of eager policymakers who understand the value of technology and are willing to sort of cooperate through some of these sandboxes. Okay, you guys want to try this out. You need some relaxations on technology, on the regulations to be able to try it out. And when, in fact, it becomes a viable solution, we will put back some of the regulations. But let's not kill this upfront by requiring you to meet every regulatory box there is.
It was recorded earlier.
So we give you 6 months to experiment. If it goes well, then we figure out what else needs to be done. And I'm all for, when it's small, regulators shouldn't worry too much. They should create these sandboxes and even let them run, At some point, you have to understand what this is very well, because as it gets big, it becomes systemic and could become a real problem. So I think the kinds of solutions, you talked about gig economy. Well, increasingly, you will have trade in services across the world. The example you gave, or my friend wanted a logo for his company. He sends a request for proposals across the world. Somebody in
Welcome
Taiwan
to the stream,
creates
Eric.
a logo for him, and that's a transaction. Well, that transaction needs to be compensated, and that's where the cross-border transfer of funds comes in, and you need a reliable way to do that. So I would think we're just at the beginning of another wave of globalization. But this wave may be less centralized, less rules of the game up there, and much more decentralized. And regulators will still need to be comfortable, but the decentralized aspect of it is also important, because trust in global institutions is breaking down.
Fantastic. And I think in some way, I couldn't have explained blockchain and the inherent value of the blockchain
Respect Aiden's
better than what you
stream
just
and
did. So in terms of just moving to some of the things that we've heard about, and Brad alluded to,
Alex's stream, I do not want to poach their viewers.
China is looking at it.
We're
and
all
maybe some of the
covering
other
the
central
same
banks have
stuff.
looked at it as well, or they're actively looking at it, particularly at the retail level. You have been a governor yourself. What would it bring to the table in terms of if there was a central bank issued digital currency? And are there inherent risks in that that people should be aware of as they hear some of these things rolled out?
Well, first, one of the confusion that occurs when we say central bank issued digital currency is people have different things in mind. So first, there is already central bank issued digital currency. It's called reserves. And those are transactable. They're sort of, they move around. They're bought and sold. They're there. But they're largely useful for wholesale payments. Now, what people have in mind, the two developments on the retail side, one is a central bank account for retail investors. That is, everybody would have a deposit account in the central bank, and you would make payments from that account to anybody else. That's one possibility, which is made possible by automation. Transaction costs have come down. What this, however, will mean is the central bank maintains all these accounts and knows who's doing what. So issues of data privacy, the centralization,
I have
all
5
that comes
viewers.
in, and
Thank
it also
you.
means that the central bank now does
Introduce
the
yourself in the
AML
stream.
CFT, the know your customer, all of which central banks want to resist doing because they're not in that business. But central bank accounts have one big danger for the bank,
Like and subscribe.
system, which is
hopefully I have
that
an alert
if the
that
central
shows when
banks
somebody
are
subscribes
seen as
and likes, I think.
effective providers of this service, bank deposits become much less sort of attractive from the public's perspective, especially in times of distress. And you can imagine a flight to safety from bank deposits to central bank money, and that would essentially create bank runs, which would be very problematic. So regulators are a little wary of going
Pre-recorded from
towards
earlier
opening
today.
central bank accounts for everyone, both because of the hassle cost of trying to do the
Recorded earlier
investigation
today.
customer by customer, but also the fear that you may undercut the banks. And if in fact bank deposits are a good way of financing the bank, then a central bank who takes in deposits has to find a way to get the money out back to the banks for them to be able to lend, and that's going to be hugely problematic. So let's not enter that business. Where I think there's more traction in central bank digital currencies is in tokenization. So we have currency today. Why not create an electronic token? And that's where some of the technologies that you use will come into play. It will be a more anonymous currency, just like your physical currency, but it will be transmittable much more easily across distances than your physical currency. So in other words, it is essentially a way of creating the possibility of all the funky stuff that you do with digital currencies, with cryptocurrencies in the central bank. Two advantages it'll have: it'll maintain value, and it is something which is reliable. It is you have the full faith and trust of the central bank associated with it. What it won't be able to do is cross-border transactions. And one of the worries, of course, that central banks have is all the security risks associated.
I'm going to stop it pause it right there for right now. Just wanted to thank the new subscribers I have, the new people in the stream. Carlos, I just made a moderator. No, this is pre-recorded from earlier from the Ripple site. So I'm new at this live streaming, trying to get content to y'all. I know Aiden Trading is doing a live stream. Alex Cobb is doing a mega live stream. So we're all like covering the same things, but maybe I can cover something that they're not covering while they're covering something, we're covering. So that way everybody has all the information that's coming out there. So let's go back to the market. Let's see what the market's doing. Right now we're still, let me refresh. We're still in the red mostly. Bitcoin is at 9,210, Ethereum 187, and XRP Ripple dropped down to 28 cents. It's a buy in my book. Now I know a lot of people's like, oh, we want the price to go up. We want the price to go up. Hey, I want the price to go up too. But just look at it this way. I think of worst case scenario. And the longer the price is down, I feel is more time, you have to buy. Because what happens if life comes up and you have to cash out before it blows up? You know, you'll still have a lot more in your bags if you just keep on accumulating. So, like, accumulate a little bit every week. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. But hey, this is what I do. I just get a little bit every week. And then I have a couple hundred off to the side. So if something happens where the whales tank the market, where it goes like when it went to 25 cent and hit 24 cent right quick, I got an alert. I was Johnny on the spot. So because just think of it. XRP was designed at $10,000. Bitcoin does not really have a use case besides a store of value, and then went close to $20,000. We're at Swell talking about all these different partnerships and open up these different corridors and laying the foundation of the new financial future. And it's not going to be on top of an old system. It's like, I'm in real estate. It's like rebuilding a house, and you're working on the plumbing. You're gonna have to take all that old rotten plumbing out and just redo it. If the foundation's messed up, you gotta take it out and redo it. So that's what they're doing. They're building a new system from scratch. And they're probably like 60% through the process. We just need to be patient and let them run their course. And believe me, once they hit that switch and all those corridors start lighting up and turning green, it's not going to be like 30 cents, 45 cents, a dollar. It's going to be like 30 cents, a dollar, $20. So, hey, just be patient. Let me see if I have any questions or anything over here. Major Thomas, hey. Okay, so Major Thomas says Alex needed sleep and Aiden's dad was interrupting his sleep trying to shut him down. Hello. Uh, well, hey, I don't mind taking the baton. So, all right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the Digital Blockchain News Asset News. I'm your host, the XRP agent. So let's see. All right. So I'm in California, and it's close to 11 o'clock in California. Hey Google, what time is it in Singapore?
The time in Singapore is 1:49 p.m.
All right, so it's 1:49 p.m. So they're just getting off break, and then they have the future of digital banking. Now that's what I want to see, the future of digital banking. And then the afternoon keynote, that's going to be interesting. So let's see what. All right. Now I think I saw something with Mr. B XRP. He did some videos at Swell. Y'all want to look at that? Let's take a look at that. Let me bring that over here. Mr. B XRP. So let's take a look at the short video first.
Welcome Welcome to the future of RippleNet Home.
Ooh,
Imagine an
RippleNet Home.
entirely new experience where you can get insights about your company's payment flows and performance in real time, as well as intelligent suggestions for how you can grow your market share and increase your competitive advantage in different parts of the globe. As you explore and interact with the network, growth opportunities for your company get surfaced to improve your capabilities in an existing corridor or expand into a new one. Evaluate the size and potential of a market and immediately find a partner that best fits your business goals. Get to know your potential partner, their capabilities, and perform the necessary due diligence, all within RippleNet Home. Then send a request to get connected instantly. Receive new opportunities to connect with RippleNet members that can offer you low rates and instant settlement with on-demand liquidity. Manage and respond to all of your inbound requests in one central place from wherever you are. And watch as your network and your reach continue to grow. Track all of your payments on RippleNet with smart automation that reduces errors. And analyze your transaction history to understand how you can fully optimize global payments at your company. This is just a glimpse of what's in store for RippleNet Home. What else can you help us imagine?
Oh man, that was tight. Now it looked like that was an app. Man, imagine you doing transactions. It's on the ledger and it's not disputed, and it's not going to be any mistakes or anything. You know how these companies love to overcharge you, you know. So man, let me check the Oh, Carlos, hey man, thank you. You're doing some good work. Carlos says it's the new Ripple Home app. Man, yeah, that looks good. All right. Now, if anybody's not subscribed, please subscribe. I hooked up my stream, and hopefully I have some alerts. So if someone subscribes or donates or something like that, it will send an alert. So I don't have the what's that, the chat box filled in yet, but I'll work on that. All right. So, and this video was um supplied by Mr. B XRP. So if you don't, let me like his. Thank you, sir. Just send him a message. So if you're not subscribed to him, subscribe to him. Okay, Ripple can be days away from crazy news that has kicking with. Okay. Major Thomas, how you doing? The need for speed XRP, baby. Yup. Major Thomas, yeah, that's right. All right. Now he has another video, but let's check out, see what else is going on on Twitter before I hit that one. banks will win.
New. I mean, this is completely different.
Now, how long did he post this one? All right, so that one was an hour ago. The short one was 2 hours ago. So let's prime that one. But let's check Ripple if there's any updated information, any tweets. Okay, this one's like 8 minutes ago. It's only the beginning. All right, let's check this out.
Beginning to scale, and I think that we're pushing almost today about 10% of our volume that we normally do to Mexico through the ODL platform. It's working.
Uh-oh. I'm not used to that.
Extremely well. We've now opened into 4 new corridors that we're beginning to scale, and I think that those will continue to ramp in the coming weeks and months. And you know, at the end of the day, pairing off our transaction flows with the currency flows really gives a lot of efficiency and scale to what we do. We're
Let me
pushing
rewind
today
that
about
just in
10%
case
of
we
our
missed
volume.
anything. I don't think it's me.
We're pushing almost today about 10% of our volume that we normally do to Mexico through the ODL platform. It's working extremely well. We've now opened into 4 new corridors that we're beginning to scale, and I think that those will continue to ramp in the coming weeks and months. And you know, at the end of the day, pairing off our transaction flows with the currency flows really gives a lot of efficiency and scale to what we do. We're pushing almost today about 10% of our volume that we normally do to Mexico through the ODL platform. It's working extremely well. We've now opened into 4 new corridors that we're beginning to scale, and I think that those will continue to ramp in the coming.
All right, I played it twice. I hope it's not me. I got the fastest internet connection. Okay, what's over here? It up. All right. There we go. Let me see. Anything new? All right, let's see what Mr. B, has he posted anything new yet? No. Brad Kimes. Let's see if Brad. Well, let's see if Brad Garlinghouse posted anything right now. 21 hours ago. That was yesterday. If you missed the opening scene. Let's see what the opening sequence. Now I'm going to be muting the music off and on because I don't know if it's a copyright strike. Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
And gentlemen, please welcome Ripple Chief Executive Officer, Brad Garlinghouse.
My man. There we go. That was a cool opening scene. All right, so Brad's talking right here. Let's see what
You're
he's talking
moving that
about.
XRP across the XRP. We're taking a payment flow that might be going from dollar to Mexican peso, and you're holding a dollar, you're selling that dollar and buying XRP. You're moving that XRP across the XRP ledger to, let's say, Bitso, who's here in the audience today. You're selling the XRP and you're buying Mexican peso. By enabling that liquidity to move from dollar to peso in real time, you're changing how that oil is greasing the engine of correspondent banking. So for us, in a world of hype, in a world of experimentation, in a world where people talk about the opportunity and really the speculation of digital assets, we feel like XRP is the only digital asset really poised to solve a problem at scale, a global payments problem. Or taking a payment flow that might be going from dollar to Mexican peso, and you're holding a dollar, you're selling that dollar and buying XRP, you're moving that XRP across the XRP ledger to, let's say, Bitso, who's here in the audience today. You're selling the XRP and you're buying Mexican peso. By enabling that liquidity to move from dollar to peso.
Oh, Brad Garlinghouse, congrats to 2019 Blockchain Innovation Award winners. Okay. It was an honor to recognize customers in the SWELL by Ripple Blockchain Innovation Awards tonight. Congratulations to all the winners. Gold Logic, Bitso, SBS, CB, Thailand, Money Net, BTech Global, Untool, Money Transfer, Coin One Official, and RAKBANK Live. Okay. Tongue twister right there. Congratulations, everybody. So, all right. So this was yesterday. Ripple surpasses 300 customers at Swell 2019. Kicks off in Singapore. I had a conversation with Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, about the momentum, focus, and future of Ripple and XRP. All right. So let's see. Let's see if the digital asset investor retweeted anything lately. Check my tweets, my messages over here. This whole crew is radical. Yep. Yep, of course. All right. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this Mr. BXRP, Brad Garlinghouse, and the digital asset investor. Let me retweet this. That was crazy. It's nice seeing them again. Well, seeing them. All right. Chris Wang. All right. Let's see what this video is about.
About MoneyGram is that we do have liquidity. This is new.
Oh, what's up? Is this my settings or what?
This is completely different, right? So the beautiful thing about MoneyGram is that we do have liquidity.
But I know I got a fast connection.
Billions of dollars. So the money is there. The question is, how do you move it efficiently? You guys have an amazing technology, interesting platform. that can help us do that.
7 viewers.
But it needs
Woohoo!
to come to life. You need buyers and sellers, market makers, as you say, on both sides of the transaction to actually make it efficient. And I think that just takes time and momentum to build. So I think for us, that was kind of the big learning. I think when you joke that I'm pushing you, it's like, I'm like, come on, man, get the market open, let's get going. But I realize that takes time. And so for me, that was kind of a learning. I think the other big learning for me.
They cut it right there. Thank you everyone for being on the stream. Let's see. Did we see this one? This video? Check it out.
And watch as your network and your reach continue to grow.
Yeah, that one's muted because it's playing video. Now I wonder. Oh yeah, this is about the app. So we already covered this one, but man, that's really cool. All right. Veteran XRP. Now I showed this one. This is a good one. Oh, maybe y'all didn't see this. Maybe you did, but this is funny. The teams are getting together and they're acting a fool.
Guys, look at the code.
Oh, David.
David Schwartz, put your foot next to his head. Let's see here. Do you see him, everybody? That's it. I'm telling you, this is going to be beautiful. All right, everybody, this is a shot. I want you to put your tongue on his socks. So David, tell me, when you came up with this design, what was this? Got his tongue 1 inch from Graham's sock.
I was looking at the wrong pause button.
It's like a Me Too thing that just happened.
In David, we trust. Let's see here. Do you see him, everybody? That's it. I'm telling you, this is going to be beautiful. All right, everybody, this is a shot. I want you to put your tongue on his socks.
That's crazy. My tongue is not going near to somebody's sticky sock. But that shows you how much fun they're having. I see some of these blockchain conferences with Bitcoin. They're all going crazy and all this confusion. It's just so much love and camaraderie with the XRP community, with the staff of Ripple and the creators. It's just crazy.
So here we are. No, guys, no. Seriously, this is a coded message directly from Joel Katz on the floor. Now, Alex Cobb, I want you to start. So David, tell me, when you came up with this design,
and kudos to Alex Cobb.
Does this equal, that's going to be $1 on that date, and there's $13.
Well, that obviously means March over there, obviously.
And I'm going to ask everybody the question. Guys, when we always say when Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
When are we doing it? When are we going to Mars, David?
September 16th. Yes.
Guys, you just heard it here live. We're going to Mars on September 16th. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. So David Schwartz.
Wow, that was cool. All right. Let's see what else. All right, what's this one? Let's clear up 2 days at SWELL. All right, let's see what this one's about.
Those markets will be less volatile. The value of any digital asset is going to be derived by the utility that it creates. And so I think there's a lot of hype in this space, and I think as the hype and reality come into equilibrium, those markets will be less volatile. And I think what we're seeing today, it's a very nascent market, so there's a lot of volatility. I don't know how to predict the price of XRP. I wouldn't dare try. We're one player in the XRP ecosystem, but there's other players as well. And so I think as we do things that enhance the utility of XRP, we'll continue to see that ecosystem grow and be healthier and healthier.
Do you have an outlook or an aspiration or ambition as to how many institutions you hope will be using this token to facilitate these real-world transactions by, say, the end of the year or even the end of next year?
Well, I've publicly stated that by the end of this year, I have every confidence that major banks will use XRapid as a liquidity tool this calendar year.
Over 300.
By the end of next year, I would certainly hope that we would see, in the order of magnitude, dozens. But, we also need to continue to grow that ecosystem, grow the liquidity. And it all comes back to, if we're solving a real problem for real customers, there's so many different examples in this space. There's ICOs where I don't really understand the problem the token is solving. And so those are ones where I'm very skeptical about what the future of that value looks like.
You made a good point, because there's going to be a lot of tokens that's going to be just altcoins, just going to be wiped off the face of the what's that, cryptocurrency board, because they don't have a use case. What is their purpose? So it's going to be quite a feat. So let me check and see if we have any questions or comments over here. I see we have 7 people watching. Introduce yourself, like, subscribe. It really helps me out. Really appreciate y'all. It's 11:10. Oh, looking at the wrong clock. It's 10:11 out here in California. And for real, Major Thomas. All right. Hey. All right. So let's see what Mr. B, he posted this video. Thank you, Mr. B, if you're watching. Let's see what this one's about. And if you leave any comments, I'll check over here and see. All right. This one's 19 minutes long. This says.
New. This is completely different, right? So the beautiful thing about MoneyGram is that we do have liquidity pools around the world. We move literally, billions of dollars. So the money is there. The question is, how do you move it efficiently? You guys have an amazing technology, interesting platform that can help us do that, but it needs to come to life. You need buyers and sellers, market makers, as you say, on both sides of the transaction to actually make it efficient. And I think that just takes time and momentum to build. So I think for us, that was kind of the big learning. I think when you joke that I'm pushing you, I'm like, come on, man, get the market open, let's get going. But I realize that takes time. And so for me, that was kind of a learning. I think the other big learning for me was probably the role the exchanges play. Right. I was, with all due respect to my banking friends, I was excited to get out of banks, right? Then all of a sudden I'm like, well, now I got to deal with exchanges. I'm like, what? I said to Kahina, I was like, what do you mean you don't have that on that exchange? Like, you just do it. I was like, no, I can't do it. I'm like, really? So that was sort of an interesting aha as well. So I think those are limitations. But the liquidity pools, when they become available, suddenly I think change those markets. And then I think that should bring in more people, more customers, more players. And as that helps, it just becomes, I think, a replicable, self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That you get more efficient on trades, you get more efficient on rates when you compare those pieces off.
There's a saying we use of liquidity begets liquidity, and one of the things that we talk about—
Probably nicer than chicken and an egg, yeah.
But what's been interesting, I think, for both of us to watch is at a time, and certainly beneficial to Bitso, at a time overall crypto liquidity reduced from kind of June through maybe today. The overall market liquidity went down a bunch.
Yep.
The liquidity in MXN to XRP actually is way up because of what we're seeing there. So
I think that's right. And what we're looking now in a lot of the Asian markets. So looking at Philippines, the interface with Australia, having conversations with Japan, other countries. One of the most inefficient things about our settlement process is being a U.S. company is that everything is always kind of reverting back to U.S. dollars, right? So it doesn't make a lot of sense if you need Australian dollars and you need Filipino pesos and you need U.S. dollars. Why can't you sort of pair those off and just net it through an XRP platform? And I think for me, that's what gets really pretty interesting is how do you think about not only optimizing the funds flows on a per transaction basis, but then how do you actually pair that back off in terms of the net settlement? Right. And I think if you can tie those together, and those are the conversations that we've been having, I think it's just going to transform and push us forward in a really, really amazing way.
I'm going to open up to questions in a moment or two, so just for people who would like to be ready in a moment. But maybe as a final question up here, you mentioned earlier opening new corridors, talk a little bit about that settlement. Other things, you've been here for the last day and a half, had a lot of conversations.
Yep.
How else do you see kind of the Ripple MoneyGram partnership expanding? Anything else you want to offer up?
Yeah, sure. No, I think a few pieces. I think we have not been a big user of RippleNet yet. I think we've been so focused on ODL on the platform there and the success that we've had that we really haven't had that chance to think differently about that. So a lot of the conversation with partners here has been learnings on RippleNet and how we can take advantage of that. I think for us, getting in to real-time transfers, so bank deposit transfers, wallet transfers using RippleNet, I think is a pretty exciting opportunity for us. I also think utilizing what we have extremely strong around the world is also the cash in and cash out.
Right.
And I think that no matter what happens with the world in terms of crypto account services, account payments, cash is going to be there for a very, very long time. So cash in, cash out, critical for the world. We do that extremely well, and so I think that there's an opportunity for us to plug into the network in a very different way and open those systems up and those fund flows to our partners in the room and those that are interested in joining. So that's a huge piece. And then I do think still that the magic is going to be completely pairing off RippleNet transactions with ODL, right? Because I think getting that perfectly paired transaction, so for the first time ever, you'd be able to say that money moved with the data.
Yep.
And completed the transaction, and that's it. I think that would be just phenomenal.
Awesome. All right, I will open it up to questions out in the audience. I might have one or two more.
Did I miss anything good?
For Alex as we go here, but I'll see if there's Mr. Arrington, I see your hand up.
Yeah.
We'll repeat the question, but you're pretty
I think this is where Brad,
the question was
Brad,
partnering with Ripple one of the best or the best decisions of your life? I think was the question exactly.
Let me maybe answer this way, which I always, one of my favorite phrases. I think time will tell, but so far so good.
Actually, I'm curious about this. Well, I say it's a really positive way. I think so far.
I knew I should have brought that contract addendum up here.
No, but I think had you told me when we signed the contract in June and announced the contract in June that we would be live as quickly as we were and have as much volume as quickly, I would not have believed you.
No, you would not have believed me, that's for sure, because you were definitely in the bully pulpit for a while there telling me that this was what's going to happen and this, and I was like, all right, well, I got a good team down here. And, we've got, as I mentioned, the two good guys here and a really nice product team, great IT developers. Our leader here, Camilla, has been amazing, and I think we've just pushed it really, really hard. So I understand too, and I don't remember what it was, but the last meeting that we had with your team, I think you're making some enhancements to the platform based on some of the things that we had built, which I think is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, we're learning, and I will say, I think for us, MoneyGram, you have exceeded our expectations of being just very aggressive and out there and making it happen more quickly. But all right, other questions out there?
Hello.
Right here. Yes. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ruben. So I was also excited to leave a bank at one point of time and join the tech world. I used to run correspondent banking for an international bank for quite some time, and I've seen how 50 years ago it's been the same way that banks have been selling correspondent banking. Given your experience in MoneyGram and what you've been doing on the payment space, where do you see the payments landscape? How is it going to change in the next 5 years, and where is it headed? And do you see a point of singularity being reached in the next 5 to 10 years, where you see payments happening seamlessly across different networks, across different countries?
Wow, that is. I'll take a couple different slices of that. I think first and foremost, it's always interesting. I think you said it quite well. The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? So, my fascination with correspondent banking is sort of like never ending. I have a saying that goes something like this: banks always win. And the reason I say that is this is where the money ends up, right? So even through all of this, at the end of the day, what we're trying to get is back to fiat currency, and fiat currency has to land in a bank along the way somewhere, right? So all the trades that we do on ODL, everything else through the platform, through the exchanges, phenomenal, right? And then it lands in a bank account. So I think at the end of the day, banks have a huge opportunity to really think differently and really kind of push the agenda forward. I think central banks in particular play a very interesting role in that. And the other saying I always sort of have going on in the back of my mind is that there's really no incentive for any country to want money to enter or leave in a rapid fashion, right? And so part of the challenge with correspondent banking is that banks themselves and central banks slow the flow of funds down deliberately, right? So all of us in this room, to a large degree,
I didn't know that.
Figure out ways to speed that up. And I think the challenge with that is that you're sort of fighting against these forces that are saying we have no interest in speeding it up. And I think all the news that's come out, and sort of the challenges with Libra and some of the other things that are happening, I think is reflective of that, right? What's ironic about it in some respects is that blockchain, right, is in theory more transparent than anything else, yet it's the most feared thing that's ever happened. So I think if central banks get on board with it and start thinking very differently about how they look at the flow of funds and how they think about utilizing their systems and applications to help speed up payment flows within country, I think that would massively improve the ability for cross-border to also speed up. So I think in the meantime, there's going to be this type of swell, for lack of a better word, right? Of people really,
perfect word.
Yeah, man. It's like when you're looking for notes, you can stare at the screen and see swell. But quite honestly, I do fundamentally believe that it's going to continue to be this forces like Ripple and others pushing against that and saying, what can we do differently? How can we make this work more efficiently and make it work better? So I think regulation plays a strong role in that as well, and that's something that really needs to catch up in a big way, because I think typically regulators slow it all down because they also want to catch up and try to understand it. And so I think that you see these movements forward, and then you slow a little bit, then you see another step function forward. So I'm very bullish on payments the next 5-10 years. I think it's going to be phenomenal. I think there's going to be some consolidation, but then there's going to be some new pieces of movement as well.
I'm going to go to the audience. One more question before we go back out there. I see a question over here, but you touched on Libra. One of the things I found interesting, it was when the Libra white paper was first announced, there were specifically call-outs about, hey, if Libra is successful, you'll never need the reference Western Union. Right. I'm curious what your reaction was when some of that news came out.
Well, the way I interpreted sort of the Libra was if it's successful, no one needs anything anymore. So that was kind of where I went. But no, I found it kind of interesting, right? I mean, I think what you're trying to do from, create a stable coin, but then you have to actually pack it with fiat currency, to me is sort of ironic, right? I also think at the end of the day, the fact that there was such an overreaction to it from a government perspective says two things. One is that I don't think they did a good enough job preparing the regulatory environment. That's something that we've done a lot of socialization and work with. But the second thing too is, the volume of payments around the world is in the trillions, right? So $1 billion of back
mansion
is not really going to change anything or put any sort of payments flows at risk. So, I'd like to, I'm not necessarily rooting for Libra, but I'd like to see successes in that space in a more, I think, deliberate way, because I do think it helps people think about the future and how do we move it forward.
Yep. All right. There's a question, I think, over here. Yep. I don't know if you have a microphone or not.
Question over here?
I do. Yep.
Oh, I did.
Oh, that mic's not working.
Right here, Brad.
Oh, wait, over here. This mic's working.
Yeah.
All right, but we'll come back to you one more.
All right, guys. Dustin Planholt, Cryptonaires, Crypto Documentary. Question is, what excites you the most? And going forward, what challenges do you see? And as well as your partnership, what do you see overall?
Dustin.
Dustin.
For you first, and then I'll ask Brad to chime in.
All right.
Again, I literally fundamentally believe that, if the combination of these services and products plus whatever may be coming in the future can actually begin to move money with data, I mean, to me, that's the most exciting thing that we can possibly do, right? Pairing off all of our transactions perfectly taking that volatility out of the market and actually literally moving things real time. To me, that's, I think, the most exciting aspect of what we're trying to create. But there's a lot to do. You have to build markets, you have to build products, you have to put the payments out there. So, you know, it's a roadmap, it's a journey. Right?
Yeah. I'll just offer up. What I find most exciting about how things have evolved is a year ago we were talking about ODL at the time, XRapid, as an idea.
Yeah.
Wasn't live. We had done some test transactions.
Cuban cigars.
And now we're sitting up here in a position where we got more than 24 customers. We have real liquidity. It feels very real. And taking something from experimentation, there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the room in various ways. Taking something from experimentation to actual production, and as you said, we've learned from each other. I think during that journey, we'll continue to do that. And so, I'm excited by that. I'm excited by the regulatory wins. The trend line on the regulatory side, I think, is very positive, and I think we saw that from some of the panelists that you've seen up here. That there's still some uncertainty. There's still some lack of clarity. But if I were a betting man, I think the trend line is really positive. Thanks, Dustin. And over here, I think.
Yeah, sorry, Shane Nixon from SWELL, Canada. Just curious as to know, are you able to quantify any of the sort of cost savings and whatnot, and how that reflects on your bottom line? And do you see that sort of growing as you expand from 10% to up type of thing? Will be there more economies of scale, more savings there, or can you quantify that on a per transaction basis or your margins?
Yeah, it's a little hard to quantify in total. I mean, it is a very small part of our global settlement platform at the moment. So on a per transaction basis, what's interesting is typically we're playing in sort of a spot or forward market. I think what's interesting about foreign exchange is that the more you buy farther out, the cheaper it is. But that doesn't really help you in a real time fashion, right? So. To me, it's about balancing the two pieces, and so we are seeing funds flow. It's really fun. We've built some interfaces, and you can actually see the transaction flowing. You can buy the XRP, you can sell it back, you can actually see the money deposited into our bank account, right? And it's all real time, and it's happening virtually instantly. I think it's within a minute we sort of cleared the trade. Within 15 minutes, you get a refresh on your bank account in Mexico that shows that the money's landed there. So. I would say that it's in a percentage basis, it's definitely improving. I would say that we're actually going through some ups and downs a little bit. I mean, sometimes this market is not the most efficient for a peso trade, right? So we don't necessarily execute the trade if it's not the right trade to make. So we're still balancing the two. We're still learning, and as liquidity grows and becomes more available to us, then there'll be more opportunity to really do that. But right now, the scale of it and the size of it is a little small to be completely benefiting the bottom line, but definitely efficiencies are coming through for sure.
Another question out here? Oh, right over here.
Thank you. I'm Noam from GMT in Tel Aviv. Full disclosure, we're a MoneyGram.
Don't know what it is.
Yes, you are.
Well, he sort of stole Alex's attention in his visit to Tel Aviv with Ripple.
That's right.
Yeah, I was driving around in vans like on the phone.
You're welcome back anytime. So there were a lot of macro questions. I'd like to ask a micro question. I've heard over the last day and a half this repeated multiple times. Can't wire money on a Sunday. But like Alex said, you're still dependent on the local banks and the exchanges at both ends of the XRP transaction. Does it really solve the problem? And that exchange still needs to credit your payout partner in Mexico or wherever it may be. And they're dependent on the local bank.
Yeah. Go ahead, why don't you start?
I think that, as Alex described earlier, there are limitations depending upon the bank receiving and are they 24/7, what their limitations are. And as Alex described, there's some banks that are leaning in and making changes to their core systems to reflect that. There's some banks that I think are not. And it depends where you are in the world. It depends which kind of partner you have in that regard that I think will influence how that plays out. One of the things Alex and I said backstage to each other, which I very much believe, is those that engage early and make some of these changes, and even at MoneyGram participate in RippleNet early, I think there are early mover advantages that will accrue not just to the MoneyGrams, but also to the customers that are able to benefit from that. But you're exactly right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a whole system end to end, and if there's one broken chain link in the chain, then it's not going to fully have the funds there.
Yeah. I mean, I would say too, at the end of the day, right? I mean, so some of this becomes the question of, is that fiat translation always necessary? And I think that that's the other big part of this, right? Which I think is at the end of the day, you know, if you're sort of, I'll go out over my skis here a bit and say, but if you're kind of a pure crypto fan, it's really not about ever translating it back to fiat again, right? So then you have a completely different way of looking at that. So if I'm just doing an XRP handoff versus actually trying to trade it in and out, it's kind of a different conversation as well. So I do think some of it is a bit of a time evolution, and it's also sort of a utility and a need for the consumer. But there's different ways to think about it than always translating it back into the fiat piece, and that's part of what we're also trying to solve for.
Alex, it's great to have you here. It's great to be a part of MoneyGram. We're so excited.
Subscribers.
Thank you for joining us out here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all very much.
All right. We have any new subscribers? Now I saw like a video of Life Touch Media with David Short. Let's post that right quick. See what that is talking about. Before I hit that, let me talk to the people that's in the stream. Yeah, hit the like and subscribe, guys. Woohoo! I finally got a subscriber. I heard a subscriber alert. Was that me or something else? Yeah, there we go. Carlos. Now you subscribe? I give you moderator. Takes you about an hour to subscribe. Okay, but thank you. Thank you for subscribing. That's gonna be my new rule. You have to be a subscriber to be a moderator. All right, but hey, thanks for joining the team. Maybe too much of that cannabis. All right. All right, so let's. Oh, they just. Oh, it looks like they're live. Let's see what they're talking about.
It's remarkable. It is remarkable. I mean, the quarters that are opening up. Myself I was incredibly excited. I mean, just seeing you and David kind of go back and forth. We were together for a while. Like David Schwartz.
I lost it because I moved. No, it's not me. Cause must be theirs. All right, let's go down to this one. Yeah, so all right, this one shouldn't be stalling because this one is talking to David Schwartz with
So the idea is kind of like a Trojan horse.
Brad
To some
Kimes.
extent, in the early days, like in the first version of but they have to.
With David Schwartz, Brad Kimes, who are hanging out, talking about the ledger, talking about on-demand liquidity, talking all things Ripple with David, who is absolutely awesome, and then Brad, who's he's okay.
Yeah.
Brad's kind of decent.
Brad, he's okay.
I'm a diva.
He is a bit of a diva.
Except I walk in the rain.
Yeah,
it's raining and it's hot.
It is raining.
It's raining and it's hot.
Did you think
Dang.
Singapore was going to be this hot?
I was specifically told to prepare for hot rain, and I remember thinking,
He need to work on his video skills.
How do we do that?
the way you prepare for it is you don't wear a suit.
Yeah, guys, I can say it's really humid here. So wearing a sport coat, this whole business casual thing. Can you guys fix that, David? I mean, to me, business casual. Why can't they say Jeans t-shirt.
You know what they even told me? They even told me snappy business casual.
Snappy. They didn't give us that.
Business casual.
Snappy business casual. That's
a new one.
smart casual is more like it.
I don't know. They said that it's Asia and they dress, more formally.
I feel like we're going to an Illuminati meeting. I mean, look at this
Everyone
place.
has to see me in a tie. This does look
Yeah,
like
I want everyone to see. Look at this really good-looking tie. That's a good-looking tie.
And it matches my autumn.
Turn it up
That's
on
your
my
autumn
end.
tie.
That's what I was told. And I gotta be honest, this from the front here looks like the old Bretton Woods.
It does look like Bretton Woods. I'm waiting for the Clintons to show up.
You can see the living wall. Someone on Twitter called it a walled garden.
Oh,
A lot of people are buzzing out laughing. It's like, oh no, we built a walled
Bare
David
wall
listen
garden.
to Underground Universe.
No, don't know what it is.
No, don't know what it is.
Underground Universe is an album I wrote in 2011. That's why they asked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really cool.
Thanks for
album.
all.
Fusion record.
I'll have to
You
check it out.
got it. We're really excited.
Look at Cola's name is on the board.
No idea.
Congrats.
Awesome. David is. He loves the community.
Yeah, right. No cam
Absolutely
skills.
awesome, except for except for Alex Cobb. No.
Yeah, I was just going to say except for Alex Cobb.
Major, are you subscribed?
That was the first name that came to my head
Yeah.
too. So
Everybody but Alex. Like we like everybody.
Well, he can take abuse pretty well too.
All right.
And Alex was.
XRP Andy wants to know. XRP Andy wants to ask David, what's your favorite candy?
My favorite candy. Oh boy.
Twix.
I would have to say Spree.
Whatchamacallit?
When I was doing a lot of coding when I was younger, I would just have boxes and boxes of Spree, and they would just disappear like you. It was a frightening thought because I wasn't
Like you could just scratch his beard.
servings, and all of a sudden you notice like you're watching TV or something and it's gone. It's gone. It's like, oh my god, I just ate 15.
I hope the rest of the documentary is not this professional.
I used to do that with Spree. I would have a bunch of it comes in these silver tubes.
Yeah.
And I would have a bunch of these silver tubes, and I would go to reach for another one, and there were no more. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. Please tell me I dropped a couple of them. But no. I can eat a lot of Spree.
So Aiden Traden said hi. Hi, David.
Youngest XRP YouTuber in the space, David. He's amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's really great.
David, what do you want for Christmas?
The price to go up.
Say XRP in $1, but that'll get me in trouble. I'll say what I'm supposed to say, and what I really would like to see is less toxicity in this community. I'd just like to see people who, I don't care what your favorite project is, nobody builds anything up by tearing something down. It just doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
Did you build this thing, David? I mean, is this your mind? I think I see 589 in there somewhere.
Reading the leaves.
Yeah, there we go. Swell by Ripple with David Schwartz. So, David, tell us the meaning in this. What is the hidden code?
Cannabis? Carlos? I bet Carlos only sees cannabis.
Has been mind-blowing what they've done here.
Yeah, the design team really just.
So Notorious XRP says, tell you I love your work.
Yeah, he's
Look at that.
He really supports the community, makes a lot of inspirational videos for all of us to keep us all charged up. Yeah.
Hey, David, is there anyone you've been around where you said, wow, that guy's really smart?
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, Dustin Planthold.
Are you kidding me? That's the smartest guy you've been around, huh?
He's with this company called Life's Tough Media. God, what a dumb company. He asks the best questions, and he's really good at shooting video.
I love it.
He's always got a goofy smile on his
I
face.
do. I look like Joaquin Phoenix, so there you go.
That's right.
Oh, man.
All right, so we're going to walk in. We're going to see what kind of star power David Schwartz has as we walk in here. Let's see if the room just completely parts for him.
MoneyGram CEO is speaking in 3 minutes.
MoneyGram CEO. You're telling me there's a partnership with MoneyGram? When did this happen?
Well, you know what? Funny
David,
enough,
were you holding out on time in there?
I think that's been announced.
We've been hanging out in Bretton Woods for a while.
But there was more than a year when
That is nice.
in the early stages.
It really hooked up the Ripple community with their own little pad. It's cool. Swimming pool, all the good stuff.
And the biggest thing for us is that it means that we have effectively an unlimited source of volume for on-demand liquidity transactions, and we have a motivated customer So, and to be honest, like it took us a while to get it right. It's been kind of a bumpy road, and it's nice to have somebody who can provide you as much volume as you can handle, so you can test easily without having someone who's got some patience and understanding. And the road's gotten a lot less bumpy recently.
Real-time applications.
And now it's just a matter of ramping up volume.
And David, have you seen the Justin Bieber runs on Ripple?
I did.
What did you think about that?
You almost didn't want to say that you did, but then
Yeah.
you said you did.
I did. I saw it too. It's fantastic. On my Twitter feed, I have a hard time. That stuff always makes me laugh.
So-
My grandkids always, anybody who does anything funny with me in it, my grandkids, they're 8 and 9.
Man, those
So the
cameras
question was-
kills are just,
And I got one good morning.
it's killing me.
Watch the videos, yeah. That's all.
So 1 to 10, how much do you love Brad G?
Oh, he's been incredible to work for. He really, you know, the company grew to the point. The company grew to the point where we really needed somebody who just had the expertise and sort of like the internal facing sort of side of it. Someone who's just a great manager.
Maybe he forgot he was holding the camera.
It's like, I gotta be like Herbie
Nice
Patton,
tie,
some of the greats
David.
and he was just the right person.
Last question for you. The Ripple Wrestling investor wants to know if David is a wrestling fan.
Not really. I've watched it a couple of times.
Guys, this guy's the real deal. He's been incredible to us the whole time we've been here. David, thank you, man.
Man, you are family all the way.
And I didn't mean it when I said you were a bunch of jokes.
Yeah, you know what? See that? This guy, David Schwartz. I tell you what, next CEO, by the way, of Ripple.
Yeah.
So
I did mean it.
he really did.
Man, do not let him hold the camera anymore. Woo, man. Do not let you hold the camera anymore. Give you like camera lessons. But all right. So let's see. Anything coming up? Any new videos pop up? Yeah, be wary about those videos that shows Ripple giving away XRP. Those are fake. Don't give away your XRP. Keep it in the ledger. Keep it locked away. Have everything go in the ledger. Nothing go out. So, yeah, remember that. We have anything? All right. Well, go through the news again, see if anything popped up before I take off. Did my first live screen. Yeah. Here. See the latest tweets. Crazy stuff. All that. Jason XRP. That's my middle name. RippleNet Home. Yep, we like that. All right. Anything y'all want to touch on before I take off? See. Let me see if I can see my own screen. There we go. Yeah. Let's see my own screen. Let me pause that. So y'all can see what's y'all can see yourselves. What? Who's dissing Cobb? Nobody disses Cobb. Cobb's cool. Tighten up votes. Carlos would like to ask. Like, all right. Hey, what do y'all think about the price? Where y'all think the price is going? Let me put back to, yeah, there we go. Price. Let's see what the price is. Where you think the price is going to be at the end of the year in the, oh, we only have 3 people now. All right. Oh, I guess that's time to call it. Okay. Carlos would like to ask a tree. Okay, do you bang out, David? I don't know. All right, let me test out these little control things. So I'm using Streamlabs, and let's see. Let me see what the be right back. Let's see what that looked like. If that's working. All right, I pushed it. See anything yet? Ah, there we go. Be right back. I'm just playing. All right. Oh, go back live. Go back live. I'm live now. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pushing these buttons to get a test. Looking at a clue. David open his mouth. Starstruck. Yeah, me too. What's this button? Intermission. Intermission. What did intermission look like? Go back to live. Because it's a delay. I just push the button and go back to live. Okay. Oh. Let me see. View credits. Top donations. Okay. All right. Well, it's only 3 viewers. I did my first live stream. Let me enter studio. What's enter studio? Studio is transition. All right. So going to be ending stream. This message is held for review. All right. Let me see. Show that. Can't be cussing. Watch the language on the stream. I don't know if they're gonna mess me up with that. All right, now let me push the end alert box. Alert box, what's that? Okay. All right. And push back live. I'm back live. Ending. Back live. Keep up. Right. Check later. All right, everyone. This is the XRP agent. I'm going to be signing off. And I'm going to end the stream now. So, hey, thank you for joining. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Let everyone know that you like my stream.